Hello guys, I am back today with a alcohol marker coloring tutorial. This image is by Ching-Chou Kuik and it's titled Beloved Hydrangea. You can get her images in her Etsy store, and I will have that link down below in my description. I'm on her design team, and I love coloring her images. It keeps me coloring. So I am testing out. Ooh, I'm sorry for. My volume is probably up a little higher today because I have my camera lower and the microphone is closer. So I'm sorry if it's louder. But I am testing out the Nuvo alcohol markers that Tonic sent me. So Tonic is sponsoring this video today, and we are testing these markers, and I am limited to the colors that I have. So I am having to bring in a few Copic colors to help give me enough colors to blend with, since I am limited to these 24 markers that they sent me. But I did want to do a kind of a comparison video of how these markers compare to Copics. I am a Copic colorist, and I have also colored with Spectrum Noir markers, and I really don't care for Spectrum Noir markers. It's just a personal preference, but I have used them in the past. And these markers here are very similar in shape. Here's a Copic marker. And these markers here by Nuvo are very similar in shape. They have a marking here in gray, just like the Copic does, that lets you know what its smaller size is. The smaller nib compared to the chisel nib, and it does have a chisel just like a Copic sketch marker. Then the small nibs are different. Oops, sorry. I'm going to move that out of the way so it's not so loud. But the small nibs are different. The Nuvo marker has more of a bullet nib, and the sketch marker has a brush nib. One thing I have noticed, it is harder to get into very fine detail areas with the bullet nib, whereas I can get into smaller areas with the Copic marker. But overall, right now, we're just going to see how they color. So let's see. The other things that I've noticed that are different are, let's see, these are very juicy markers, and they soak through the Copic Express paper that I use quite a lot. I'm not sure if that has to do anything with maybe there's more alcohol in the marker. I'm really not sure what causes that, but it does soak through. And so, whereas I can get a lot more layering with the Copic marker than the Nuvo marker. Let's see. Well, as I'm coloring, I might think of other things. Let's go ahead. I did purchase the skin tones, and the nice thing about these, of course, is the price point. A Copic marker is $8. You can find them cheaper, and I will list my links below as where I do purchase them. But the Nuvo marker's price point is a lot better. You can buy them in these 3 packs that have 3 markers that will blend together, that are made to go together, or you can buy them in the larger packs. But this pack here was the skin tones, which are these 3 markers right here, and these were made to use for skin. So I went ahead and purchased this myself as an add-on because I wanted to be able to color my digital images. So that's what we're going to do first, is her skin. So we will take the lightest marker, and this is how I've always done skin, and we will do her skin. So I'm going to go around and kind of map in where her shadows will be. And this is just to give me a rough view of where I'm going to put her shadows when I come in with the darker markers. I'm going to go ahead and just do the face right now, because alcohol does dry fast, and I'm going to pull this out just a little bit more closer to the center, because this is the lightest marker. So I'm going to go ahead and just come out closer to the center where my highlight will be. There we go. And as your markers dry and the alcohol absorbs, your lighter, or your coloring will get lighter. So that's your first color. Your second color, that color right there was 473 Sweet Vanilla. I do like that these numbers are written down, and they also have the, like this one here, let me see if I can get close enough. Yeah, this number is 473 and it's Sweet Vanilla, but it's also labeled on the side, so I like that. It's labeled on both ends, both caps, and it's also on the side of the marker. So I like that about these markers. This is 475, and it is Apricot Blush. So we will, whoops, I opened the wrong end. This one here, I'm going to go in with for the shadows. And because this butterfly is here, I probably should have put a little bit more shadow here. And when I pull out the light marker down here, I'm going to go ahead and do more right there. But we'll go ahead and just do her face right now. This video probably will be a little bit longer because of the fact that we're doing coloring. And if it is getting too long, I will stop it after the hair and come back, or I'll fast forward through the coloring of the flowers and butterfly so that it'll go faster for you. But I wanted you to see some of it up close. So already I like the way that is softening and already blending. Not too bad. Now we'll go to the darker marker, 477. And this does have a gray line where you will know your smaller nib is. So this one, do a little thinner since this is our darker marker. And since I'll probably have some sort of blush here, I didn't think about if I had a blush color with the Nuvos. I don't think I used blush with the other ones. Okay. So now I'll work my way back down. And this time I will pull out the color. So we've got our darkest color there, and I'm going to, with Copics, I have the brush. So this is more of a flick. With Copics, when I'm using Copics, I'm flicking. Since I don't have a brush nib and I have a bullet nib, I'm going to still do that flicking, but I want to make sure I'm dragging that color so that it'll blend really well. That's my goal, is to have a nice blend at the end, and that's what I'm trying to achieve with these markers as well. So that will be a good test to see if I can achieve that with these. So I'm pulling that, the darker marker. This is the medium that we're using here, but I'm pulling that darker end to blend it. You're going towards your light source, or the lightest highlight, which is here, and of course in the center is going to be your highlighted area. And since this is your second one, I'm going to go ahead and go down this way a little bit, just to give that a little shadow as well. I'll also go under her nose a little bit too, and maybe a little bit under her lips. There, maybe a little bit more under her eye. Okay. And now with the lightest color, I'm going to go ahead and pull that out even more. And we'll pull it all the way from where that darkest color was all the way out. I'm not going to close the entire highlight here just yet. Right now I'm seeing if I'm getting that blend. I will go ahead and close it here since it's a smaller area, and I am closing it under the chin, between the nose and the upper lip. That is being closed too. I'm going to close this up here as well. And to get a smooth blend, I'm going to go ahead and kind of do a sweeping motion. Like that. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do that one time all the way down to close her highlight up. But this is not something I'm going to do over and over again. I don't want to darken the highlight, and with alcohol markers, every time you go over an alcohol marker, it gets darker, even if you're doing the same color. So you can actually get more colors or more depth the more you go over it. But I want this to be the very lightest on her face, so that's the very lightest highlight on her face. So I'm only going to want to go over it one time. So I've done that sweeping motion over her forehead, and now I'm going to just try to do one sweeping motion here over her nose area and come down. And I want it to be a nice blend, so I'm just going to go over that cheek area and all the way down. So my goal is to get a nice little blend there to where you don't see your brush strokes. And I'm actually not unhappy with this. The blend is not too bad. So I'm going to go in with the darker marker one more time just to give some depth here to that dark. I like to have a contrast, so I'm going to go ahead and give her a little more, as I'm used to a darker contrast there, so I'm just going to go in like that, where that dark, I'm used to a darker marker, in other words, with Copics, and I want her to have more contrast. So this is the darker marker with Nuvo. This is their darkest marker. I'm just looking at it, watching it dry. I want to go ahead and do her shoulders and her arm. The same thing while the face dries. Okay, we'll let that dry a little bit. Okay, now we're going to move into her hair. And for this, I'm going to put the two lightest skin colors over here. And then I'm going to pull out, now these are not hair colors, or these are not markers that are close together in color. So these are not blending colors that would be, you know, in this close family together. And then I'm going to add a marker here. So really it's like this for a light, a medium, and a dark. And I did that because these two are too far away from each other. And like normally I would do 477 and go up in color, up in number, in other words. Well, I don't have a larger number in the selection that they gave me, so I had to make do. Because hair is not really being blended per se, you're doing more streaks than blends, I went ahead with this. So I'll show you how it goes here. So I'm going to take the lightest marker, and I'm going to put my first streaks in, making sure to leave, and yes, I do move my paper around. It just helps me get the streaks spread out more. But I'm leaving room here for my second color to come in. You have to leave some room in between your strokes for that second color. So, and I've got to also extend these a little bit. You also here again want to leave some highlights. And remember, this is your lightest marker. You are coming in again, so right now you're just going with the direction of the hair, and you're just making sure not to fill it in completely. You're doing strokes and not filling it in. You know, you want, it's like strands of hair, in other words. It's a different type of stroke because you're doing lines instead of flicks, in other words. Because with hair, you're not really after a blend. You're not blending anything with hair. You want it to be separated colors so that you get that strands of hair look. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. I'll pull this up so you can see it a little better. I've got that main highlight up here on the top, and I'm leaving highlights in the strands of hair. Okay, now I'm going to go to my second color, and I'm going to put extra flicks in here. Now this is a Copic, so this is the first Copic I'm using. I couldn't do it without having a 3-color blend for hair, and the two I had were too far away. I mean, I could do it with 2 markers. I could have tested it with 2 markers, but they were too far in color. So there was no way to do it without it looking like I was making black and white hair. So I had to make do with doing this. But I found by doing this, though, quite interesting enough that the 2 brands work well together. So if you have a few Copics and you get a few of these, they work nice together. So I'm just filling in little areas, still leaving highlights in areas. We just want some areas to stay light. I got a little bit of hair over here I didn't see. Kind of good that I have a Copic in here. That's one thing, is with the bullet nib, it's hard to get in these little tiny like right here, like where that strand is super tiny. That is really hard to get with a bullet nib, whereas a Copic has a super fine tip on there. So that's, that's the difference between a bullet and a brush tip. If you're comparing them, I just want to give you a good comparison. If you're looking and wanting a difference, Okay, so we got some of that middle color in here. Okay, and now for the dark color, and this is quite dark, I'm going to go and I'm going to look for the deep creases. There's like one right here around her eye right here. You see that where the hair is behind, and then there's like right here, it's where the hair is folded right here. I'm going to put some little tiny dark right there, and then I'm going to come back with the medium and just soften it a little bit so it's not so harsh, but it'll give a super good contrast. Let's see. I'm going really carefully because I don't want a ton of ink down. And these are brand new markers, so they're juicy. I think anything I probably compared to my Copics are probably really juicy, because I use my Copics all the time. This image doesn't have as many of those really dark nooks and crannies as some of them do. So we've got that strand there. So here. I just love what this dark does though to the hair. This is what makes the hair pop. When you get to this point and you add these little tiny bits of dark. It's scary at first, but you're just doing little bitty bits. So let me show you this. I've went in just little tiny bits. They don't even look pretty right now. They're little tiny bits of dark, just where the hairs are tucked in. So now I'm going to go back with the medium, and I'm just going to kind of drag those out just to soften them a little bit. Just so they're not so harsh, because it is a super dark marker. Kind of extend this stripe. Some of these, kind of turn them into strands, you know, where it's dark up here and it turned into a medium strand color. I'm adding some extra medium strands in here too. Because now I'm going back with my medium marker, now that I've softened everything. And then I'll come back in with my lighter marker and we will be done. Okay, I see this video is already 35 minutes, guys. I have probably bored you to death. So I think I'm going to stop once I'm done with the hair here. And I would say for the price of these markers, which is a couple bucks I think each, they are a good starting point for the price. You are getting what you pay for. In other words, they are not going to do everything that a Copic does. If you're wanting to do high-end art, high-end coloring, you're going to want a brush nib. I mean, the brush nib is very, very important for very, very detailed work. The brush nib is probably the biggest drawback here. That's what I'm super missing, is the brush nib. I have a hard time saying yay or nay on these because I don't have the triples. I don't have the 3 markers in enough. I just have the 3 markers in the skin tone. Now, looking at her skin, if you look at just her skin, the skin did not turn out bad. I really don't feel like the skin turned out bad. I'm pretty impressed with the skin, to be honest with you, for a $2 marker. But I haven't gotten to play with the colors. You know, the colors they gave me are super bright. They're more bold than a lot of Copic colors. So I haven't got to play with the softer colors and lots of colors that are the 3s that are supposed to go together. I have 2s that go together, but not 3s. So I would say that pluses are the price, the shape of the lid, the shape of the barrel, the comfort. They are not refillable, so you would have to buy a new marker when they run out. That is one, I would say, a negative. But then again, it's a $2 marker. You can buy them individually. You can buy them in 3 packs. You can buy them in a full bundle or a big bundle. Always use quality paper, guys. You want to use your Copic paper if at all possible. Anyways, that's my advice. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the message below. And if I end up getting more markers at a future date, I will do more coloring and we will see how that goes. I hope this has been beneficial in some way. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.